Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. It's Friday, April 28th. It's about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I got done working this morning a little early because it rained, so I drove down to Osage Wildlife Management Area. It's a little windier than I hoped. It's about 15 miles an hour right now. It's going to kick up to about 20. I'm going to go for a hike and see if we can hear a bird gobble and maybe do a little turkey hunting. Okay, it's about 3 o'clock. I hiked about a mile into Osage, maybe a mile and a half. I kind of looped around the draws and did a little scouting. I was just going slow, looking for a bird, listening for a bird. Never heard a gobble, but it's, like I said, a little windy this afternoon, so it surprised me if the birds are just quiet. I got up to this little cornfield that's behind me. There's I don't know, about 20 rows of corn that's cut down to the ground. Then about 10 that are up, and then 20 that are down, and 10 that are up. So I set up the Jake and hen decoy out here in this little opening. There's also a little road that keeps going down around the draw down there. So I'm just attacking the edge, hunting edge. There's also clearing down there that goes down into the bottom of the draw. That's where the birds roost sometimes. The last time I was out here last weekend, I heard them in the morning up there. But since I hear them on both sides in the morning, either side in the morning, and it's not usually both sides at the same time, it's either the south side or the north side. They have to be coming through this public land sometime. I'm guessing it's in the afternoon when nobody else is hunting. Everybody just gives up afternoon hunting because they like going out in the morning and hearing the first gobbles and trying to shoot birds off the roost. And I get that you have other obligations too, that sometimes they can only hunt till noon and then they got to go do other stuff with their family, kids' baseball games, stuff like that. So just had an afternoon off. My conditions weren't ideal, but I wanted to come down, at least go for a hike, learn more about this property. This will be about, I don't know, the maybe 15th time I've hunted this wildlife management area. I actually sat in the woods right there and was with a guy that shot a turkey right here on the edge of this cornfield before too. So we were just hunting together, team hunting. I'm gonna set the decoys out here. They're about, I don't know, maybe 20 yards in front of me. Somebody cut out a couple branches on this cedar tree, and I'm just gonna put a little stool there, lean up against that tree, and do a little calling, see if we can hear a bird gobble. I haven't heard a bird yet. I was just walking slow on the way in, scouting and listening, watching for birds, but I haven't heard or seen a bird yet. So just gonna sit down for a little bit, do a little calling, see if we can get a response. But I just wanted to set up a couple decoys just in case we get a response when we're calling. It's all ready to go. Hey everyone, it's about 6 o'clock. I just got done hiking through Osage Wildlife Management Area. The wind picked up to about 25 miles an hour. I hunted that little cornfield for an hour and a half. I didn't see any birds on it. So I picked the decoys up and I snuck back down into the creek bottom and to that little green alfalfa field that they planted that I was sitting on last time I was out here. It was a lot quieter down in there. I didn't hear any birds in the creek bottom. I snuck my way through the creek bottom and popped out on a different cornfield and saw two hens out in the corn rows, but they didn't stay very long. They just worked their way through the cornfield and then got in the underbrush in the draw and but I didn't hear any other gobbles, didn't see any other toms. Last Sunday morning when I hunted out here, I heard probably 6 or 8 different birds. So I don't know if it's just the wind or the cold, rainy weather that we had again this morning. You know, it rained over here earlier in the morning. Not a lot. The ground didn't get that wet, but I don't know if it's just because it was cold and windy, or if they've just moved onto the private on both sides of the public land. Or I didn't. Usually you can hear them gobble even if they're on the private land. So I don't. I'm gonna try. The wind's gonna die down to about 8 miles an hour tonight. I'm gonna try to sneak back in here in the morning. I think I'm gonna give this piece of public land one more shot tomorrow in the morning and try and be the first one in the parking lot. I made a mistake last weekend. I was actually the second person in the parking lot, which, if I'm the second person in the parking lot to show up in the parking lot and the other people are still getting ready, I let them walk in first before I walk in. I don't try and race them in, but I heard birds gobble in the morning. They were gobbling pretty good about, it was about shooting light, maybe 30 minutes before sunrise or 45 minutes before sunrise. They were gobbling pretty good. It would have been, I think they were on the public land. It would have been pretty easy to get pretty close to them, but I kind of watched the guys that walked in front of me's lights as they were walking up the trail, and they were heading to where the birds were gobbling, so I thought that I would let them take a shot. You know, just, they were here first. They deserved honors, basically, if you play golf. But I went in and hunted for about 3 hours. I got probably 200 or so yards from 250 yards maybe from where the birds were gobbling in the morning. They flew down, gobbled for about an hour, and then for some reason just stopped gobbling. They didn't gobble the rest of the morning. I hunted from maybe 8 o'clock was the last time I heard the last gobble till 1 o'clock. I was in here in different areas, and I hunted a couple different spots. I came out, I drove over to the parking lot on the west side and walked in from there and hunted for another couple hours, but I didn't realize when I walked out after the morning hunt at about maybe 10 o'clock, I came down across the bottom of the property, saw what I thought was turkeys on this little cornfield right when I walk in. So I put binoculars on it, and it was actually decoys. I should have played my gut that most people that hunt public land don't want to walk a mile from the parking lot to get to a turkey. They just don't do it. They go hunt the first little field they can find, and I don't know if that's what those guys did, if they hunted there the whole time or if they had moved there after. Maybe they walked in and spooked the birds on the roost and then just went and set up on that cornfield. I don't know, but something in my gut tells me that I made a mistake last Sunday by not moving in close on those birds when I heard those birds on public land, roosted on public land, and giving those guys the shot, the honors, the chance to go move in on birds since they were here first. Something in my gut tells me that they didn't even go to where the birds were gobbling on the roost, that it's maybe a quarter mile to the field that they were hunting on, where they were hunting from the parking lot. The birds were probably 3/4 of a mile or close to a mile into the public land, especially if you follow the trail. The trail kind of winds through the field edges and around the fields, and so as the crow flies, being 3/4 of a mile on the trail, it was probably a mile. But I don't. Looking back at what happened last Sunday, I feel like I just made a mistake by, first of all, hitting my snooze button once. I could have just got up at 4 when my alarm went off instead of sleeping till 4:10. If I would have got up at 4, I would have probably been the first one here. But if I was the first one in the parking lot, I would have went straight to those birds on roost as soon as I heard them gobble and try to get within 100 yards of them and see if they fly down and something good happens. But I don't. That's I guess a lesson that I'll take away from it, that maybe it should just be a free-for-all. But I feel like I did the right thing by giving them a chance to get out of the parking lot. They must have pulled in 2 minutes before I did. They were still getting things, totes opened up, getting dressed, putting decoys in bags, loading shotguns, putting shotguns together. So I'm guessing that they pulled in about 2 minutes before I did. Whenever, another tip, if you're hunting public land and you are the first person in the parking lot, you should actually get everything ready to go. I was guiding, or not really guiding, but hunting with a buddy who had never turkey hunted a couple years ago, and trying to help him with the tips that I could help him with. And we were actually sitting in the same parking lot. We were the first people here. We left Omaha at like 4:30 in the morning or something. We were the first people in the parking lot. I told him that we should, but it was maybe 30 minutes before. We were way early. It was maybe 30 minutes to an hour before we needed to walk in. So I told him that since we were here and things were quiet, it wasn't real windy or cold or anything, since we were here, that we should get out, get dressed, get the shotgun loaded, get decoys in the bag ready to go, pick out what decoys we wanted to take in, get everything ready to go. So all we had to do was step out the door of the Jeep and go. So we did that. And about maybe a half hour, 15 minutes later, half hour later, we were both talking about, okay, we were looking at our watches saying, okay, it's probably time to get out and start walking in so we can get in the dark. But you don't want to get in too early either. There's birds in this place that will roost right over this little trail. So if you walk in the dark before they start gobbling, you'll spook them right off the roost too. So double-edged sword of when you want to start walking in. But as we were getting out and starting to walk in, another vehicle pulled in, and 2 more guys were in it, and they were trying to get their stuff ready to go. They weren't racing us or anything, but if we would have waited until we were about to walk in to start getting everything ready, we would have been in the same position I was in last Sunday, where all of us were getting ready at the same time, and it was kind of a race to see who was gonna get all their stuff packed up first. So I don't know. I'm gonna head back to Omaha, have some dinner, get some sleep, and give this a shot in the morning. I saw those 2 hens on that cornfield, and they were right dead center of the public land, so I don't know where they're going to work their way to. I'm hoping that they work their way back down to this creek bottom tomorrow in the morning, and that they're roosted down there. But it's easier to hunt the creek bottom of this property than it is to hunt up on the ridges. But I guess it just matters where the birds gobble. So if we don't have any luck here tomorrow, I'm probably gonna, the following weekend I have a wedding to go to in South Dakota. We'll be up in the Black Hills. I'm gonna do some prospecting while I'm up there. But if we don't have any luck here tomorrow morning, maybe 2 weeks when I get back from South Dakota, 2 weekends from now, I might just get on Google Earth and Nebraska Game and Parks website and try and pick out another property to go to. That would be my first time there. Like, go explore something new, have a different adventure But this spring's just been weird. Every day has been like, there's been very few days where it was sunny, warm, and no wind. So even tomorrow, it's supposed to drop to 8 miles an hour tonight, but it's supposed to pick up to 15 to 25 tomorrow at 10 o'clock. So it's going to be about the same conditions that it is right now after 10 o'clock in the morning tomorrow. So it'll probably be a short hunt in the morning, get in at 6:30, maybe a 4-hour hunt from 6:30 to 10:30 or something. But then I'll probably pick another spot that we can go scout, try and learn something new, try and go somewhere new. Or there's a couple places that I've turkey hunted before that I haven't been for 4 or 5 years. I might go back into one of those spots and see if anything's changed, see if they've planted any fields different, or I'm just gonna get on Google Earth, use Google Earth and Nebraska Game and Parks website, overlay them and see what I can come up with. But just want to try and shoot a bird off of public land. It's a challenge. I like the challenge of it, but I don't want to. Sometimes I feel like this place, Osage, I like it. I almost always, well, except for this year. I like this property. It lays out cool. It's fun to turkey hunt. It's, access isn't bad. I like the fact that there's only a parking lot on each end. So if you want to get to the middle, you got to walk to the middle. You got to work to get there. So just seems like things aren't panning out the way they normally pan out here. Most years I see birds on the property during the day. This year I've seen hens. I've seen 4 different hens 4 different times, or 5 different hens 4 different times. I saw 2 together today, but I saw 5 different hens 4 different times out here on the property. But I've never seen a Jake or a Tom on the property. I feel like the birds that I heard last weekend were on the property. I guess they could have just barely been across the fence, but I was all the way down on the south fence. It would have been hard to hear them gobble up on the north fence of this property, just because of the way the hill, the property drops off on both sides. There's a ridge kind of through the middle of it, so you would have had to hear that gobble come up over the ridge. But I suppose it's possible, but it didn't sound like they were that far away. I should have tried to move in on them, but I was thinking that if they flew down off the roost, or even if those guys spooked them off the roost, there was a chance they were going to spook them. They were going to fly closer to me too if I just was down and quiet. But that's the game you play, I guess. I'm just going to try and make sure I get to bed early enough tonight that I get up early enough tomorrow morning and get to be the first one here. I'm actually going to hike I'm going to try to get here in the morning, maybe 30 minutes before shooting light, an hour before sunrise. And I'm actually going to hike in about maybe a quarter to a half a mile on the road right here. Get up on the ridge to the first 2 cornfields up there. That way, if anybody else hits this parking lot behind me, they'll be quarter to a half a mile behind me in the morning. That way, if those birds gobble where they gobbled last weekend, I'm guessing that if I get up there and they gobble where they gobbled last weekend, I'll be within a couple 100 yards of them. And it'll just be about pinpointing where they're at. So I don't know. We'll
I'm gonna head back, get some sleep, and we'll see what happens tomorrow.